Hello, mighty companions. I want to welcome you to A Course in Miracles here on Facebook Live. I'm Earl Purdy, and we're going to continue and we're going to complete the section on the rules for decision. So we're going to talk about the rules for right decision. According to the Course in Miracles, how do you make right decisions? How do you make right choices? A choice is a decision is a choice, a choice is a decision is a choice. A choice is a decision is a choice. So how do we make right choices? How do we make right decisions? That's what we're going to talk about. We're going to complete that, and we're going to start out with our theme song. We're going to start out with Brother John Christmas at johnchristmas.com, and the tune is I'm Not a Victim of the World I See. And that would allow everybody to have an opportunity to come in and we can get started. Okay, here we go. Of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of my mom. I'm not a victim of my mom. I'm not a victim of events, circumstance at all. I'm not a victim of the world I see. Cause what's happening now is what I've done to me. I'm not a victim of the world I see. What's happening is what I've done to me. I'm not a victim of my future. I'm not a victim of my past. Anything that really doesn't last, I'm not a victim of the world I see. Cause what's happening now is what I've done to me. What's happening now is what I've done to me. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I got some loaner copies of the Course in Miracles if you'd like to use them. Oh yeah. I'm Earl Purdy. I want to welcome you to Facebook Live, A Course in Miracles, which is a course in right perception, correct perception. Do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Do you have to be right or would you like to be happy? I'm not a victim of the North, I'm not a victim of the South, not a victim of anything except what comes out my mouth. I'm not a victim of the world I see. Cause what's happening now is what I've done to me. And that includes the good stuff. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim, no, of the world I see. Yeah. Remember only this. You need not believe the ideas. You need not accept the ideas. You need not even welcome the ideas. Some of the ideas you may actively resist. You may actively resist some of the ideas. You may actively resist some of the ideas. Yeah. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. Cause what's happening now is what I've done to me. Oh yeah. That was Brother John Christmas at johnchristmas.com. If you want to get that music, it's all based on the teachings of the Course in Miracles. and it's a free download. So feel free to one of the main things that I'd like to remind you of is that I'm the divine repetition teacher. I see myself as the remembering coach. 40 plus years of studying the Course in Miracles has given me the opportunity to literally work with thousands of people. And one of the biggest errors that I see that happen with Course in Miracles students is that they disobey what the Course in Miracles says about how to study it. The Course in Miracles gives very specific instructions about how to study the Course in Miracles. It's not necessarily the same instructions that we would get studying something else beside the Course in Miracles. So it really emphasizes that as much as possible, don't bring your interpretations of how you should learn the Course into the Course, or it usually just results in the person not understanding what they're reading or getting very frustrated with the Course. In rule number 1 that it says in the book is the ego analyzes. Wrong-mindedness will analyze the Course. Right-mindedness will accept what it's saying. So to analyze the Course in Miracles, to try to break it down so you can figure out what it means, the Course in Miracles actually says we'll destroy the meaning of it. So actually the analyzation of the material destroys the meaning of it. So what you want to do is you want to remember what it's telling you, and then you want to apply those ideas to your own thinking. The Course in Miracles is a teaching that is about how do you remove all the blocks that keep you from experiencing love and joy and happiness and peace within yourself. So the Course in Miracles is what? It's trying to teach us how to see things in a way that we don't lose our peace with the things that we are experiencing and going through in our day-to-day life. So the Course in Miracles works at the level of perception. It works at the level of your thinking. The Course in Miracles is, and I have to say this often, it is not a book on manifesting things in the physical world. That is not the focus of the Course in Miracles. It's how you can make more money, how you can get more specialness, how you can get more success in the outer world. That is, the Course in Miracles is not about that. It's about peace of mind. It says over and over again, the goal is peace of mind. The goal is peace of mind. The goal is to teach you how to have peace of mind. So what is the advantage of having peace of mind? Well, what the Course in Miracles says is when you have peace of mind, when you're not in conflict, you can hear the guidance of the Holy Spirit. You can hear the guidance of your own inner voice, your own inner teacher. And the Course says you can't hear that voice when you're angry, feeling guilty, and you're in conflict, and when you're upset. That hearing your internal guidance when you're in that state of consciousness is not possible. You hear your internal guidance when you've allowed yourself to change your mind enough to have some peace. And then people ask me, well, how do I do that? You do it by, if the Course in Miracles is your path, you do that by giving the material attention and study. If you were going to medical school, you wouldn't wing it. Okay, if you were in medical school, you wouldn't go, I'm going to go with Dan and then I'm going to do this operation. Okay, you would not go to your own wisdom. And the Course in Miracles says, if you're upset, angry, afraid, and feeling guilty, you're in the absolute worst state of mind to give yourself advice. So what it says is then what do? Well, you go to your spiritual path. You go to the curriculum that you've decided is going to be the guidance that you use in order to get back to peace. If you're a Course in Miracles student, it would be the Course in Miracles. If you're into the Bible, for you, it might be the Bible. Whatever you see as being your wisdom text, you want to go to your wisdom text. You want to go to your teacher, and you want to do what you're told. You want to follow the instructions. I want to bake a cake. I've never baked one before. I get a recipe book. I don't get the recipe book, throw it down on the cabinet, and then wait for the cake to be baked. Right? So to look at the Course, hear about the Course, but never actually read the recipe and then apply it, you're not going to get the result that the Course in Miracles is promising. So I'll say it again. If you really want to get the peace of mind that the Course in Miracles promises that you will have, you must give it attention, study, and remember what it's saying, and then apply those ideas to the things that come up during the day. So people ask me, well, what is that? The Course in Miracles is 3 books in one. It's a text, which is the theoretical framework of the material. There's a workbook that gives you 1 lesson to do every day of the year. And there's a manual for teachers. So that's what you use. It's all in one book. It's all in one book. So today we are going to continue with the rules for decision. And before we do that, I'm going to finish what I was saying about the following the instructions that the Course in Miracles gives. It says, at the beginning of the workbook, it says, remember only this. Remember that you don't have to believe the ideas. Remember that you need not believe the ideas of A Course in Miracles. You need not believe what I'm about to tell you. This is not a class where I'm trying to convert anybody. The Course in Miracles is not trying to convert anybody. It's most effective with those who believe they need it and want it. That's who I like to talk to. I like to talk to the people that believe at some level they're open to it and they want to hear it. You'll never see Earl Purdy in any situation where he's trying to convince anybody to study the Course in Miracles. What I'm going to do is what the Holy Spirit, what higher power did with me. It waited until I was willing and ready to open my mind up to another way of looking at it. And then I was open-minded to what it had to tell me because I wanted it and I was ready for it. So I was ready to listen. So if there are a lot of times people have problems if you first get the book and you see that it uses Christian terminology, it uses masculine terminology, it uses terms that we a lot of times associate with the Bible, which is you hear Christ and you hear things about heaven and you hear things about Jesus. You hear all of these terms that I have noticed over the years for Course in Miracles students, for a lot of them are trigger terms. Just like they were trigger terms for me when I first heard it, because I grew up Southern Baptist and I learned a lot of fearful representations of what God was and what the truth is. So A Course in Miracles attracts a lot of recovering Baptists and recovering Catholics and recovering Jews dealing with the guilt that they get in their culture. So I feel like the book is especially oriented toward people who did grow up in those types of fearful, restrictive, early religious teachings. And so what it does is it uses all the terms that we have learned in the past and in our culture, and then the Course in Miracles gives you a new interpretation of all those terms. So the Course in Miracles has its own meanings that it gives for the terms that it uses. So it's not using the terms normally, the definitions of the terms that we've learned. But I also have learned that people who are really ready for the Course, then the fact that it's written the way that it's written does not stop them from studying it. No, even though I had resistance to the terminology that the Course was using when I first got introduced to it 40 years ago, it still didn't stop me from studying it because it was my spiritual path. It showed up. I realized it must be my path because I wanted to study it and see what it was teaching regardless of the form it was written in. So if you're really ready for something, we learned the last couple of weeks in the rules for decision, he says, if your resistance is strong and your dedication is weak, you're not ready. So if your resistance to hearing this is strong and your dedication to doing it is weak, then you're just not ready to do this right now. And that's okay. You're not ready to do it right now. If your dedication is weak and all you feel is strong resistance, you're not ready yet. You're not ready. So the Course in Miracles, so we're going to start today. And then it says, some of the ideas you may actively resist, some of the ideas you will find hard to believe, and some of the ideas might startle you. So if I say something and you say, that's hard to believe, I find that hard to believe. And remember, I told you that that's what the Course said you might do, that you might find it hard to believe. So if you go, that's hard to believe, right, that's what it said. This might be hard to believe. I have been getting, I have thousands of students that watch online. And one of the things of the communication I've been getting a lot is people saying how much they really appreciate how much I've been putting the emphasis on practical application, remembering the ideas and applying the ideas, and not on analyzing the ideas. Because there are a lot of students out there that are just like me. They want to hear what it's saying, and they want the focus to be on the course and not on everybody's opinion of the course and everybody else's interpretation of the course and what it means. And so I want to tell you that I'm right in your corner. That's my goal too, is to remember what it's saying. So it said that some of the ideas you may actively resist. So if you find yourself resisting any of the ideas, that's okay. It said you might actively resist it. Then it says some of the ideas you will find hard to believe. Some of it might startle you. Then it says you are not asked to judge the ideas at all. Now, it didn't say you were not going to judge the ideas. It just said, I'm not asking you to. You know, that's what I love about the humor of the course. I'm not asking you to judge the ideas. I'm not asking you to judge the ideas. I'm not asking you to judge me. I'm not asking you to judge anything. He says, and that's the same as analyzing. He says, I'm not asking you. But he says, well, if you really want to know if this is true or not, then the Course in Miracles says, you know what? I want you to use the ideas. If you use the ideas, it says the ideas themselves will give the ideas meaning to you. So if you use the ideas, it says you will see that the ideas have meaning. And then it says the ideas will show you that the ideas are true. The ideas will show you that the ideas are true. But if I don't remember the ideas, how can I let the ideas show me that the ideas are true? So we are going to be on page 428. Page 428 in chapter 30. Page 628. Page 628. Chapter 30, page 628, paragraph 13. Chapter 30, section 1, paragraph 13. That's where we're going to start today. And it's going to kind of give a review of what we've already covered and give us some main points that we want to remember. So here we go. It must be clear that it's easier to have a happy day if you do what? What's necessary in order to have a happy day? Well, the Course says, well, if you really want to have a happy day, what's necessary is that you should if you prevent unhappiness from entering your day, then that is easier to have a happy day. So it's easier to have a happy day if you don't allow unhappiness to enter in the first place. It's easier for me to have peace if I don't allow conflict to enter in the first place. So the Course in Miracles says, if you want to have a happy day by preventing unhappiness from entering at all, it says what? This takes practice. This takes practice. This takes what? It takes practice. If you're going to not have your day turn out lousy from the very beginning by not allowing unhappiness to come in from the very beginning, he says you're going to have to practice. But how can you tell when you actually started to really prevent unhappiness from entering your day in the very beginning? He says, well, because when you've achieved the goal, then if you will be experiencing the rules that protect you from the ravages of fear. So the way to be happy is to prevent unhappiness from entering. And how do you prevent unhappiness from entering? By practicing the rules that will protect you from fear and upset. There are rules of thinking that will keep you from being afraid and upset. Now, if you're following along with me, the reason why I always work out of the book is because the job of a good teacher is to make themselves unnecessary, to teach the student so much of what they have learned that the student no longer needs the teacher. And I'm very successful at getting people to the point that they no longer need me. It's been, especially in relationships. So I've been a very successful teacher in my whole life, especially when it comes to, I don't never want to see you again. Oh, well, you learned as much as you could from me. That's great. I'm doing great. I'm way ahead of the game. I don't want to hear another word you got to say, Earl. Oh, you learned as much as you can from me at this time. Relationships usually only get violent because two people who have learned as much as they can from each other are still trying to stay together. That's why you see a lot of upset, violence, and attack in relationships. They've learned as much as they can, and now they're attacking each other because they're not seeing each other correctly. So the Course in Miracles says, when you have learned the rules that will keep you from being afraid, what happens? Then he says, the sorry dream of judgment has forever been undone. So how can I tell when I've learned the rules of not being afraid? Then I will no longer be judging. And the Course calls this the sorry dream of judgment, that what we are experiencing is a judgment dream. This is a perception of judgment, that this world is the outcome of constant judgment. What we are perceiving is the result of judgment. So in the meanwhile, what did it say? It says, in the meanwhile, you have need for practicing the rules for undoing this dream of judgment, the fear. Again, the reason why I'm working in the book is I see myself as a teacher and not a preacher. And the Course in Miracles works best when you read it and you study it. So what I want to do as much as possible is to take away this perception that I've seen many people have with the Course, that it's hard to read, it's hard to study, it's hard to understand. I want to show you that there's nothing that it's saying that it doesn't explain as it says it. For instance, it must be clear that it's easier for you to have a happy day if you never become unhappy in the first place. Okay. There are rules of thinking that you need to use if you don't want to be afraid. Okay. When you use these rules, then all your judgment, negative judgment, and fears are going to be undone. Okay. Then what do you need to do? Well, you need to practice the rules for undoing your fear and upset. There are rules for undoing your fear and upset. Now, the challenge of teaching the Course in Miracles is that the Course in Miracles taught me that there's a part of the people that's listening, and all of us, that doesn't want to hear a doggone thing that I'm saying. It's called the ego. It's called the part of us that's conditioned by the world and believes what we've already been taught, and it thinks it's separate. It's the part of us that thinks it's a separate person, that's separate from everybody else, that's a human being on their own in the world, trying to make it, being self-sufficient. The Course calls that the ego, the part of us that thinks it's separate, the part of us that thinks we're not joined, the part of us that believes in anger, guilt, and grievances and specialness, the part of us that believes power, money, fame, and physical pleasure in and of itself is going to give us the satisfaction that we want. Even though we've seen over and over again that whenever we achieve anything in the world, usually it only gives temporary satisfaction, and then you're on to the next thing that you think you're going to need to have in order to be happy. The Course teaches that we, just like says we have an idol, that we're idol worshipers. And when it says we're idol worshipers, it says our idol is named more. The name of our idol is more. It says it can be more pleasure, it could be more pain. You know, but we always have to have more. He said that's what we worship, that we worship more. It's always got to be more. And so when you begin to wake up, you realize that he says that we're busy pursuing our wishes. We just wish for something, then we pursue it. Then we wish for something else, and then we pursue it. We wish for something else, and then we try to get people to act out the script that we want them to act out to give us the thing that we wished for. So then I come up with something that I want, that I think is going to make me happy. I make that decision by myself. I don't ask my higher power to give me any advice about anything. Then I decide how I'm going to get it and what I need to do to get it. He says, and then you assign roles to everyone you know as to what they should do to help you get it. And then you get upset and feel betrayed and unhappy if they don't follow the script that you have assigned to them, even though you didn't ask them. And so then the temptation is to feel unsupported, and then to have a grievance. And then you find yourself having to forgive people for what they didn't do in the first place, because their crime is that they're not letting you control them and make them do everything that you think you want them to do in order to make you happy. And so now I'm upset with you. So the Course in Miracles is saying over and 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 over again, that we need to practice the rules for undoing that fear, for undoing anger. And he says, so the first thing we need to do is consider once again the very first of the decisions which are being offered. The decision that's being offered here is, we said that you can begin a happy day. How do you begin a happy day? He says, well, you can begin a happy day with the determination not to make decisions by yourself. So what is it that I should do the first thing in the morning if I really want to have a happy day? He says, you got to get up in the morning, determine that you're not going to make any choices and any decisions by yourself. And then he says, well, that seems like that's a real decision in itself, just to get to the point that I'm going to be determined not to make any decisions by myself. He says, but here's the kicker. Do you know what the kicker is? The kicker is, the Course says, you cannot make decisions by yourself. What? You can't make any decisions by yourself. You actually cannot make a decision by yourself. Do you know that the Course in Miracles says you've never, ever made a decision by yourself? Well, that sounds kind of startling. That seems kind of hard to believe, Purdy. Actually, I'm feeling a little resistance to that. I'm not really welcoming that idea. Okay, but I told you that would be a possibility. Remember when I said that at the very beginning? Kind of think of it like this. The Course in Miracles is saying, you know what, I'm going to present some facts to you. Okay? It doesn't matter how you respond to them. It won't change the facts. Right? And I've used this analogy and I'm going to keep on using it. Gravity is going to still operate no matter what mood you're in when you wake up in the morning. Gravity is going to operate whether you agree there's a such thing as gravity or not. The universe is not waiting for my agreement and your agreement for something to be true. The Course says we think we're the arbiters of what's true. We think we sit back and then we assess whether or not what everybody else is saying is true. And if I believe it's true, it's true. And if I don't believe it's true, it's not. Can't you kind of see how totally crazy and egotistical that perception is? Think about that for a minute. Oh, yeah. I'm sitting back, I'm the judge, and if I don't agree with you, that couldn't possibly be true. If I don't say gravity exists, then gravity just doesn't exist. Okay? If you jump off this building, you're not going to fall up. All right? Regardless of the mood you're in. So that's what I love about it. The Course says, here's a fact. You are loved by your Creator, and you're loved by your Creator unconditionally. And you're never separate from each other, and you're never separate from love, and you're never separate from what's true, and you're never alone in anything. And you're never condemned by your Creator. There is no such thing as hell. There is no such thing as sin. There is nothing you can do that the infinite intelligence that created you cannot correct. That's a fact. Now, you have a lot of conditionings and beliefs and learnings you've gotten since you've been born and experiences you had in the past that may make you believe that's not true. But just because you don't believe it's true doesn't mean it's not true. Okay, so I want you to know that's a fact. So you have to start with the basic premise of that which created you wants you to be happy, and that which created you is not trying to punish you or attack you. That's cool. That's got to be like the core thing I start with, is that love is real, union is real, unity is real, freedom is real, abundance is real, health is real, peace is real, the spirit is real. Now, that's a fact, but maybe I don't know it. So the Course in Miracles says that's the first thing you want to do, is you want to begin a happy day by having the decision not to make decisions by yourself, but guess what? You cannot make decisions by yourself. So what's the only question? He says, well, the only question is with what you choose to make your decisions with. What does that mean? He says, well, the first rule, what is the first rule? The first rule is I can't make decisions by myself. He says, you won't make any decisions by yourself. No matter what you decide, you won't make a decision by yourself. So what does that mean? It means any decision or any choice that you make for the rest of the day, you will not make that decision on your own by yourself. You're going to either make your decisions with idols or with God. So the Course says an idol is fear, God is love. So an idol is conflict, God is peace. So you could say it this way. You're going to make your decisions with love or with fear. You're going to make your decisions with innocence or with guilt. You're going to make your decisions with peace or with conflict. You're going to make your decisions with what he calls the Christ or the Antichrist, which again is love or fear. You're going to either make your decisions from the perspective of oneness, or you're going to make your decisions from this perspective of separateness. Any decision you make, you're going to make your decisions using the world's thought system that you learned, or you're going to make your decisions based on your spiritual thought system that you're learning. That's what it means when it says you're not going to make any decisions by yourself. You're going to always make your decisions with the thought system that you adhere to and the thought system you believe. That's what you make your decisions with. You're going to make your decisions with what you believe about yourself, or you're going to make your decisions with what you're being taught on your spiritual path. Everybody with that, okay? Then it says, and which you choose will join you. That way of thinking that you choose is going to join you, which means the way of thinking that you choose is going to tell you what to do. So if I'm upset with somebody, then I'm going to say, okay, I got to make a decision about how I'm going to handle this. Okay, what does the Course in Miracles tell me that I should do when I'm feeling upset? What it says, the first thing I need to do is tell myself, at least I can decide I don't like how I feel. Then it tells me to tell myself right after that, and so I hope I'm wrong. So how do I deal with it? Well, okay, I'm getting ready to talk to you. I don't like the way I feel. I'm going to remind myself that I don't like how I feel, but I don't want to be right about the way that I'm looking at this. Okay, I'm getting ready to talk to you about something. We got some kind of issue. I'm not going to make a decision by myself. Well, I can't. So I'm either going to determine how I'm going to deal with you by using love or peace or the truth that I'm studying, or I'm going to determine how I deal with you by using fear, anger, projection, blame, and guilt, which is another thought system. So I'm not making a decision by myself. I'm making a decision with that which I believe. So that's why the Course says your day isn't at random. What does that mean? What does that mean that this day is not at random? He says this day is going to be set by what you choose to live it with. So this day is going to be set by how the friend whose counsel I have sought perceives my happiness. What does that mean? Whenever you read something in the Course and you don't know what it means, keep reading, keep reading, keep reading. Don't stop and analyze it, because the Course assumes that you're not going to understand most of the things that it's saying. So it says the same thing 4 or 5 different ways, so that if you don't get it one way, maybe the next sentence, the way that it says it, you will get it that way. And if you don't get it that way, maybe the next sentence will be the way that you get it, because he's going to restate the same thing 3 or 4 times in different ways. So hopefully one of the ways you will be able to accept. Okay, so don't stop and analyze it. Just go, okay, I didn't get that. I'm going to go to the next sentence. Oh, I didn't get that. Oh, I'm going to go to the next sentence. And I guarantee you that if you do that, at some point you're going to come up on a sentence and you're going to go, oh, okay, wow, that sentence impacted me. I really saw what that meant. That's the way I would advise you to do the Course in Miracles. So let's practice that. All right, it says your day is not at random. What does that mean? It means your day is set by who you choose to live it with. What do you mean? Well, it means your day is going to be set by the friend whose counsel that you sought is going to see your happiness. Okay, Earl, what the heck does the Course mean? It means this. You always ask advice before you decide on anything. Let this be understood. Then my mind goes, well, what is it that I need to understand? I need to understand that I'm always going to ask advice before I decide on anything. He says, so if you're asking for advice and you're paying attention to what you believe in the thought system that you believe, then you can't say you're being coerced. There's no opposition, no grounds for opposition that you are free, because you're the one choosing who you're going to pay attention to. You're the one that's choosing what belief system you're going to use. You're the one that's choosing what you're going to tell yourself and how you're going to deal with the situation. So you're not being coerced to do this. The truth is you're totally free. You're free to approach that person you need to talk to from a place of projection, anger, guilt, and attack, or you're free to adhere to the thought system of peace that the Course in Miracles is teaching, and you are free to approach it from the perspective of what the Course is teaching you. Let me give you a real life example, okay? I'm upset. He says, tell yourself, at least I can decide I don't like what I feel now, so I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong about what? I hope I'm wrong about the way I'm seeing it. I'm not saying that physical thing may or may not have happened. What I'm saying is I'm wrong in that I'm interpreted it in a way that I'm giving myself a lot of anger and conflict and unhappiness. Did you get the difference? Mm-hmm. You know, this person could have stole your purse. That could be something that actually happened in your experience. So when you say, at least I can decide I don't like what I feel, and so I hope I'm wrong about it, you're saying I hope I'm wrong about the way I'm looking at it, because the way that I'm looking at it is I'm upsetting myself. And the upset that I'm feeling, the Course says, is an attack upon myself. The Course in Miracles teaches that all those negative thoughts that we have are just attacks upon ourselves, because I'm the one that's feeling the upset about it. I'm the one that's feeling the jealousy. I'm the one that's feeling the fear. So whenever I am responding to anything where I am not feeling peace, then I want another way of looking at it, because I'm the one that's feeling the conflict and the anger and the upset. Okay, so I want another way to look at it. So he says, I want another way to look at it. He says, then you say to yourself, perhaps there's another way to look at this. Perhaps there's another way to look at them. Perhaps there's another way to look at my boss. Perhaps there's another way to look at my child. Perhaps there's another way to look at this circumstance. Perhaps there's another way to look at COVID. Perhaps there's another way to look at political parties. Perhaps there's another way to look at it. 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 Then he says, you follow it up with, and what can I lose by asking for another way to look at it? See, these are very specific instructions that your own teaching is telling you to use whenever you don't like the way you feel. But if you haven't studied it and you're not applying it, then when you get upset, what you're going to do is you're going to go with your conditioning. You're going to go with the programming that you've already acquired. So how do you break that programming? People say, well, how do you break that programming? What he says right here in lesson 284, in the workbook, he says, in the lesson that's called, I Can Elect to Change All Thoughts That Hurt. He says, what you do with the truth is, he said, at first the truth is to be said. That's what I'm doing here with you today. He said, first the truth is to be said, and then the truth is to be repeated many times. Repeated many times. Then it says, next, to be accepted as but partly true with many reservations. So you say it over and over again. He says, and then gradually you will accept it as, well, I accept some of what the Course in Miracles is saying, but with some reservations. I'm kind of accepting this that I've been repeating to myself, but with some reservations. And then the Course says, then to be considered seriously more and more. So the next stage is, I'm going to consider this seriously more and more and more until what? He says, well, until you finally accept it as the truth. And then when you accept it as the truth, then you perceive it and you have the change of mind. So the repetition is what drives the ego crazy, because the ego is the part of the mind that doesn't want to learn the new conditioning that will give you peace, because it's the part of the mind that doesn't believe you deserve peace, because it's the part of the mind, the Course says, that believes it's separate from love, that's insecure, that is not enough, that has hate, that has anger, that has grievances. The Course in Miracles says your ego is the part of your own thinking that tells you that you are a body and that you come into the world and you struggle and you try to make it and then you grow old and then you die. The Course says that's what the ego is. It's the identity that we have, that we are not spiritual beings and that we're just human beings here to live a little while until we die. And the Course teaches that's crap, that it's not true. You are a soul, you are a spirit, you are mind, you are an idea, you are thought, and you are now expressing yourself through what is perceived as physical form and separation. So the truth is, what you are is beyond the body. What you are is unlimited, but you are expressing yourself through a body, but you've been taught to identify this body as being who and what you are. So the Course says the reason why people struggle is because they've forgotten that they are infinite spiritual beings who have creative power. So therefore they see themselves as a victim of everything around them and separate from everything around them. They join with other people who also believe the same thing, and we call that society. And then we all suffer together from erroneous ideas of who we really are, and that is the world that you see.
Yay.
Unless you're totally in denial, so therefore you want to pretend that there are not things that are happening in the world that are challenging. That's okay. Denial is not a river in Egypt, but it is a very popular tool for people who are not ready to be aware of everything. You know, if I'm standing in the middle of a railroad track and a train is coming, putting my hands over my eyes will not keep the train from hitting me. Okay, so you're not being spiritual if you're doing spiritual bypass, which is saying I'm not going to become aware of anything that's going on in the world because that's negative, which I see a lot of people do. You know, I never look at the news. I never pay attention to anything that's going on. Okay, great. You stand right in the middle of the railroad track, put your hands over your face until the train comes. Okay? Because the truth is the way that you allow yourself to have peace is to have awareness. And out of awareness, you allow yourself to be safe. And you allow yourself to have peace. So it's not being aware of what's going on that gives you safety. It's awareness of everything that you could possibly know that will give you the safety. So don't forget, you don't have to believe me, accept me, or agree with me. It's perfectly okay. It's perfectly okay. No true teacher is going to demand that you agree with them in everything that they say. Because there are as many different perspectives as there are people in the world. I'll say that again. There are as many different perspectives of the same thing as there are people in the world. So one of the craziest things that I ever used to do was to expect everybody to see things the way I see it, or to agree with the way I see it. One of the biggest things that gave me more peace in my life was when I paid attention to what the Course in Miracles said in Lesson 71, which is only God's plan for salvation will work, which means only the Creator's plan for our peace will work. And what's that? He says, well, if you want to guarantee you'll never be happy, this is what I want you to tell yourself all day long, and it'll guarantee that you'll fail in your quest for happiness. And then I went, well, what is that? Keep telling yourself, if this were different, I'd be saved. Just keep on telling yourself, if somebody else spoke or acted differently, if you were in a different situation or circumstance, then you would be happy. He said that's the guarantee that you're going to fail in your quest for happiness, because now you're making your happiness dependent on changing every single thing around you and outside of you. When my child is different, then I'll be happy. When my boss is different, then I'll be happy. When white folk are different, then I'll be happy. Then when black folk are different, then I'll be happy. When Latino people are different, then just take it. Anyway, when I leave Denver and I go to Spain, then I'll be happy. When I lose 10 pounds, then I'll be happy. When I get a new car, then I'll be happy. When I get that, he says, every time you say your happiness depends on something outside of you being different, he says that's guaranteed. Read that lesson. I'm not making this up. He says that's guaranteed failure as far as having any real, true happiness. So what does the Course in Miracles call real and true happiness? It calls real and true happiness happiness that does not ever end, that is permanent, that is constant with no gaps, and it only expands. Personally, I've never experienced that consistently. No, in this lifetime, I don't know of any time that there's been no gap in my joy, no matter what, right? So he says what we do is we go for what he calls elusive happiness. When I say he, I'm talking about Jesus of the Course in Miracles. The Course in Miracles has the radical premise of it was channeled through, Jesus channeled through this lady another perception of everything he taught. Now, I tell people all the time, even the book says, you don't have to believe that. You don't have to believe that in order to benefit from what the book is teaching, because what it's teaching you, you'll see that it's true if you use it. But if you were to accept that you have a teacher, then you could be helped more, right? Somebody who would come to me and go, hey, Purdy, I know you've been, into this thing for about 40 years. I just picked it up. Could you give me a few tips that might help me in the study of it? Then I could help that person more than if he thought I didn't exist. I could still be helpful, but I could be more helpful if you gave me existence. If you really came to me like that. And if we're not bodies, then what we really are must be invisible. And if what we really are is invisible, that's not too way out to think that I could tune into a consciousness that's not in the body if I'm a consciousness in the body. So consciousness can exist independent of the body. So therefore, there could be invisible awareness, beings, consciousness that do exist, but we just don't see it. Just like there are animals like dogs that can smell and hear things that we can't smell or hear, because that's not the vibration that we are attuned with. Well, it just accept that that's true for you too. That there could be things that are very real that you just can't sense with your physical senses, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. You know, so you do have help. You could have an easier life. You could get a lot of assistance, but it's hard to receive and listen to the assistance of something that you're not willing to even open your mind up to the possibility of believing. So how do most people get motivated to change spiritually? He says, well, the way that most people get motivated to change is through suffering and fear. That's what we're doing in the world if we don't change our minds soon. We're going to be forced through suffering to change the way we're treating each other, to change the way we're doing the planet, to change. Then some people go, that's outside, that's just the illusion. Okay, tell me that you're not going to eat for the next 3 days. You know, if it's such an illusion, why are you still eating? Why are you still putting clothes on? Why are you still paying attention to the weather? Why are you still trying to go to the bank? Why are you still interested in what's going on with your finances? If it's all an illusion, why are you still trying to handle your reality as if it's real? So don't, you know, get real with yourself now. Don't say that thing that I hear so many truth students say, well, it's just an illusion. So if you're going out there, you're just making the illusion real. Well, you making the illusion real when you put your clothes on, drive, put shoes on, go to the bank, go to the store. You're doing it. If you really thought it was an illusion, you would do nothing and still be perfectly happy, perfectly provided for, and perfectly taken care of. So it's important to not let your ego fool you and make you think you are more aware and more conscious and more spiritual than you actually are yet. Because the Course teaches that pain comes from deceiving yourself. So now when I go through pain, the first thing I go is, okay, Purdy, you're deceiving yourself about something right now. You're in pain. You're in some form of deception. You're fooling yourself about something. And I don't even have to know really what it is. I just need to identify pain is self-deception. Pain is I'm fooling myself about something, right? So it says, how do you do it? First, you repeat it many, many times. So that, my friends, is why you see me putting the focus on repetition, 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 hearing it and remembering it. Now, that's going to turn off a lot of people who want to analyze the Course, and you probably lose interest in paying attention to what I'm doing. And if you're looking to be endlessly entertained by me, then that might be disappointing to you also, because that's not my function either. My function is not to be an entertainer, even though I'm happy if what I do sometimes is entertaining and it brings joy to people. Great, that's wonderful. And I like to do that. But more than that, I want to be a teacher of God. I want to be someone for those who resonate to me and are willing to take advantage of my 40 years of obsession with this, that they might feel like there's a way that is coming through me that would be helpful to them. And then everybody that feels otherwise about me, hopefully they will go somewhere else. And that's why you do it every part of my life. You want to be my friend, you want to connect with me, I'm open and receptive to that. If you don't, and you feel like you need to change something about me, judge me, criticize me, condemn me, want me to be different than how I am in order to please you, then you're probably going to get frustrated. So it would be best to open yourself up to being around somebody else who would be more along the line that you would enjoy and you could be inspired by and you would be open to, because that's the approach that the Course says God uses. That spirit only, the spirit, how does it put it? Spirit seeks out those who are willing and able to do what it is that needs to be done. So it says spirit is not going to ask you to do something you're not willing and able to do, and it's going to be something that you're willing and able to do right now. So that's how I can tell if God's asking me to do something. First of all, it won't be whatever's asking me to do this will not be asking me to sacrifice, and it won't be asking me to accept some form of deprivation, the Course says. Now, so, and if spirit is asking you to do something, it will give you inspiration. You will feel inspired. You will feel moved. So if you're saying that you want to do something and you think it's God directing you to do it, according to course, you would feel inspired and you wouldn't feel all fatigued and drained and tired. Also, it says in the annotated version of the course that someone that spirit has sent to you or you are sent to help, you feel energized by giving that help as well as, you know, the other person receiving the help. So there's no such thing as spirit directing me to help you and you walk away and I'm feeling totally drained from everything I did. That is me deciding that I should help you. And so the course says consciously selected helping or miracles can be misdirected. So you deciding who you are going to help and who needs your help is primarily your ego, your wrong mind that's doing that. When you sit back and go, well, I think Earl needs my help, and then he didn't ask for your help, but you getting ready to give it to him, it's probably your ego that's telling you to do it. That's why some things that you try to teach your children, those of you who are parents, you couldn't get your children to listen to it or pay attention to you, and all of a sudden they could walk in one day and say the same thing that you were trying to teach them, but it was somebody else who told them, and they totally got it, right? Because you weren't supposed to be the one that taught them that. But our parental ego can make us feel like it's totally our responsibility to be the one that makes them aware of that, instead of practicing the truth, which says, no, let that truth come to them through the person that they can receive it through, because that'll get them to that same point of sanity faster than if they had to get it through me, but they're fighting me every inch of the way. Woo! Woo! Take a breath. And by the way, I'm not going to finish this section today, so we're going to continue. Else I'm not going to rush myself. Because the Course in Miracles says if you took one of these ideas and you applied one of these ideas consistently, it would lead you to the truth of all of the ideas in the book. If you just took one thing I said today, so far, and then went, okay, I'm going to start with, I don't make any decisions by myself, and I'm going to recognize that whoever I make the decision with, that's what's going to determine the outcome. And so I'm going to give a quick recap of that in a minute. But I want to finish this paragraph. So what did that paragraph say? If I was to say to you, what did that paragraph say? What is it that I just said? How much of that could you honestly remember if you had your eyes closed and you couldn't look at the book and I said, now tell me back what it is that you heard me say from A Course in Miracles today? And I'm not saying you wouldn't be able to remember some of it, but if you can remember some of it, then you know that you've gone a long way toward learning it. You've gone a long way toward giving yourself the ideas that will change your mind. So number one, it says your day isn't at random. Your day is going to be set by the friend whose advice you decide to pay attention to. He says that's what you need to understand. You are always making your choices with your belief system, which is your ego, or you're going to be making your choices with your higher mind, the higher power. You're either going to be making your decisions with truth, he says, or you're going to be making your decisions with illusion and what is not true. There is, check this line out. It says, there is no freedom from what must occur. You're not, in other words, if I jump off a building, I'm going to fall down. I don't have any freedom from that. I don't have any freedom from what must happen. You don't have a choice at this level of consciousness whether or not you're going to breathe. You don't have any freedom from not breathing. This has to occur if you're going to live at this level of consciousness. Don't get all mystical and metaphysical on me. Let's just keep it real. At this level, if you don't breathe, you pass out on the floor. So there's no freedom from me not having to breathe. There's no freedom from what must occur. So he's saying there's no freedom from the idea that you never make decisions by yourself and you're always making your choices based on what you believe, and what you believe is based on what you experienced and learned in the past. So you have to ask yourself, brothers and sisters, ask yourself, well, what if what I learned in the past wasn't based on anything that's true? Since I'm making all my decisions based on what I learned in the past, suppose what I learned is not true. And then the Course in Miracles says, well, how can you tell if what you've learned is true or not? He says, well, how much peace do you have? How much joy do you have? How much sense of safety do you have? How much freedom do you have? How much sense of being connected and joined with everything do you have? If you don't have any of that, then whatever you learned was not coming from the ultimate truth. It was coming from something that wasn't true and not true. So I went, okay, that's great. So if you think that there's a freedom from what must occur, you're wrong. So let's take that as the last sentence before I do a recap. You don't have any freedom from eventually being completely, totally happy, fulfilled, and joyful and loved. You're going to end up in total joy and happiness and love and peace. You don't have any freedom from that. That must occur. You're going to have your perception corrected. You're going to let go of blocks. You're going to let go of separation. You're going to let go of anger. You're going to let go of agreements. You don't have any freedom from that. You will never be allowed to have a completely limited, unhappy existence constantly from now on. So I'm sorry. It just won't happen. Okay? So even with your best efforts, you still are going to be loved. You're still going to be supported. You're still going to be happy in the end. All right. So I'm going to do a quick recap in just a minute. I'm a full-time teacher of A Course in Miracles. I do it on a donation basis. And if you'd like to make a financial expression of appreciation, I totally and completely appreciate that. There are many ways that you can do that. You can use Zelle. You can use Venmo. You can use the Cash App. You can use PayPal. All you need is my email address, and that's Earl Purdy, P-U-R-D-Y, Earl Purdy at earlpurdy.com, Earl Purdy at earlpurdy.com. And you can go to my website also, www.earlpurdy.com. Also, I've been getting a lot of communication from people who want to go deeper, who want to work with me on a one-on-one. As a mentor, a coach, or an advisor, or a combination of all three of those. If you want to save time, because the Course teaches that the purpose of a relationship is to save you time. So those who want to do the deeper work with me, I call that a clarity session, And you can go to my website, earlpurdy.com, look on the clarity session, and you can see the details about my services. And you can also self-book an appointment right from my website. Thursdays at 7 p.m. Mountain Time on the Earl Purdy page on Facebook, the Earl Purdy page on Facebook, I do what I call hardcore Course in Miracles. And that is especially geared toward Course in Miracles students who are studying the material, have decided that that's something that they really want to learn, and they're willing to go deeper, and they're willing to be taught and share and really go into a much deeper study of the material with me. We call it hardcore. So it's not so much for people who are deciding whether or not it's what they want to do. It's more for people who have decided this is the direction they want to go in, and they want to take advantage of the time I put into it, and I can show you how to apply this and hear what it's saying. Because remember when we just talked about I can elect to change all thoughts that hurt, he said that first you have to repeat it and hear it over and over again. And I've spent so much time on this material that I know I can be helpful to somebody who's open-minded about the actual study of the Course and what it's saying. You don't have to do any of this alone. That's what the whole purpose of the Course in Miracles is. It says anybody who's trying to approach this by thinking of doing it without their higher power, without their guide, he says the only thing you're going to do is scare yourself. He says because you're trying to go on an ego alien journey with your ego as a guide. Right? I'm trying to go on a journey that takes me beyond my fear and separation and ego, but I'm going to let my ego be the one that's guiding me. And he says, well, you're just going to scare yourself because the part of you that thinks it's alone and suspicious and afraid that certainly is not the part of you that's going to lead you to love and joy and peace and connection. The part of me that's more afraid of everybody and distrustful of everybody certainly is not going to be the part of me that leads me on the journey to trust. So you can't do it by yourself, he says. And so I love that. I love that. So that's Thursday. That's hardcore Thursday. Also I got hundreds and hundreds of classes on YouTube and on Facebook and on my website that you can watch for free. So you don't have any excuse. You can't use money or not having money as an excuse, because I have things that are freely given through me that you can use. If you want to go deeper, then I'm totally willing to go deeper with you. So if you're really sincere and you're really ready to go beyond your blocks, the universe is supporting you in so many ways of doing that. The Course says there is a limitation to pain. There is a limit to pain. It says it in the book. Don't worry about it. You will reach your limit. But isn't it amazing the tolerance that so many people have for pain before they'll say there must be a better way? I'm always amazed. And I can see people who are like suffering their can off, but you won't hear them go, and I'm finna go to my workbook, and I'm gonna start studying, and I'm gonna start meditating, oh, I'm gonna go to a class. I keep wanting to hear, okay, let me hear you say, okay, you're ready to actually do something to change your mind about that, rather than just only complain about what you're going through. And then if you don't, and then you go, okay, you're innocent, but you just haven't reached your limit yet. Because when you reach your limit, you're going to go, there's got to be a better way, and I'm going to do it. There's got to be a better way. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it now, because I don't want to suffer like this anymore. So I'm inviting you, and the Course in Miracles is inviting you to do what? Be proactive about that decision, and don't allow yourself to have to suffer in order to change your mind. All right? Because this is a great section. This is a great section. Watch it at least 4 times. Please share it. Please share these videos so that more people can allow themselves to tune into it. And let's do this. Let's make a commitment. Let's go deeper in our spiritual study. And we're going to have fun. It's not like we're not going to have a good time. But I just wanted to emphasize that I love to teach. And I want to share with people who are just as interested in learning as I am in teaching. I'm also your student, and so I'm also interested in what you bring to me also. So that's what time. You want to know where Earl Purdy is? That's where Earl Purdy is right now. I want to be truly helpful, but I'm not interested in trying to be helpful that much with people who are not willing to give the material some type of attention and study. And if it's something you don't want to do that to, remember it said what? Don't fight yourself. If your resistance is strong, your dedication is weak, then it must be another path that you need to be doing right now. And because I want you to have peace, and I want you to have joy. So here we go. Let's take about a minute. Sometimes if you allow yourself to just close your eyes and focus on my words from the Course, here it goes. It must be clear that it is easier to have a happy day if you prevent unhappiness from entering at all. There are rules that will protect you from fear. There are rules that will protect you from fear. Let us consider what? The very first of the decisions which are offered here. Let's consider the very first decisions that's being offered here. You can begin a happy day with the determination not to make decisions by yourself. You can have a happy day by making the decision that you are not going to make decisions by yourself. You can't make decisions by yourself. It's just a matter of who you choose to make decisions with. You won't make decisions by yourself no matter what you decide. You're either going to make decisions with the Holy Spirit or love or truth, or you're going to make decisions with your ego, your wrong-mindedness, or your fear. And which one of those beliefs that you join with, which one of those thought systems that you use, the thought system that you choose is going to tell you what to do. What did you say? The belief system that you have, the thought system that you have is going to tell you what to do, because your day is set by whose counsel that you have sought and how they perceive your happiness. You always ask advice before you decide on anything. Let this be understood. And that, my brothers and sisters, that is the truth. So the new thought system that you want to use is in the Course in Miracles or any wisdom text, even if it's not the Course in Miracles. But you don't want to let your fear guide you any longer. Your sense of guilt and separation, no longer do you want to use that as your counsel. So when you wake up in the morning and tell yourself, today if I make no decisions by myself, this happy day will be the day that will be given me. And all during the day, every time you get a chance, tell yourself what you want to experience, what you'd like to happen to you. And tell yourself, if you make no decisions without the truth, without God, without spirit, without your spiritual path's advice, that peace will be given you. And if something happens and you find yourself upset, angry, frustrated, the Course says, tell yourself, at least I can decide I don't like what I feel now. And so I hope I'm wrong. I hope I have been wrong. Then you say to yourself, I want another way to look at this. I want another way to look at this. I want another way to look at them. I want another way to look at them. I want another way to look at this. Perhaps there's another way to look at this. Perhaps there's another way to look at this. What can I lose by asking? Mighty companions, I love you. I appreciate you. Listen to this over and over again. Repetition, 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 repetition. And may the Course be with you. I'm on the Earl Purdy page. That's where you watch the live broadcast. I love you. Thank you so much for coming. I really, really appreciate y'all. I really do. I can't tell you how much it means to me that you take the time to come, for real. And hugs are available for those who dare.